Hallo alle! Heute haben wir eine kurze Lektion, eine kurze Grammatiklektion über Adjektiven ohne Artikel. So today we have a short lesson about adjectives without articles. Los geht's! So here are some overarching ideas that we will talk about and look at in this very short lesson. So adjectives without articles. The first thing that you need to understand is that sometimes we use adjectives combined with nouns without an article. As a reminder, articles are those der words, so definite articles, der, die, das, but also those other words that are categorized as der words. So forms of dies, manch, welch, those are all considered der words as well, and we've looked at that extensively this year. Ein words can also be considered our articles, our indefinite articles, ein words, and possessive pronouns work like ein words as well. Mein, dein, sein, ihr, unser, euer, and kein. But in some situations, we don't have a der word or an ein word, and we have an adjective noun combination. And that's what we'll be looking at in this lesson. As with most situations in German, we have to represent the gender of the noun. So is it a masculine word, der, a feminine word, die, or a neuter word, das? That will be represented generally by the ending applied to the adjective. And we will look at a chart coming up that shows you all of the different endings in each of the different cases for each of the genders of the nouns. But it's not as bad as it might sound. There are singular forms and singular situations with adjectives without nouns. However, much more often, these are plural situations. So I have a few examples that I'll show you here before we look at the chart, and then some very concrete examples. So hier ist ein Beispiel. Blaue Augen lügen nicht. Blue eyes don't lie. This is not preceded by an article, a der word or an ein word of any kind. It doesn't say the blue eyes don't lie or my blue eyes don't lie. It simply says blaue Augen lügen nicht. Blue eyes don't lie. So this is an instance of an adjective, noun, blue, and eyes combination with no article preceding it. And blau had to take an ending, and we'll look at how we determine that E ending in this situation. But here are a couple more examples. So, gute Nacht Geschichten für starke Kinder. So, good night stories for strong children. No article in front of stark. It's not good night stories for the strong children. Just starke Kinder, and gets that E added. Another plural situation here. Again, these are going to be much more common with plural nouns. And the third example here, Gute Eltern bereiten nicht den Weg für ihre Kinder vor, sie bereiten die Kinder auf den Weg vor. So, gute Eltern, good parents. We have gut with an E ending here, no article in front of it. Gute Eltern, so good parents do not prepare the path for the children, they prepare the children for the path, or the path ahead of them. At this point, I recommend pausing the video and taking down this chart with all of these adjective endings in your notes. If you are one of my students watching this video, I have provided this to you either in class or as a PDF on Schoology. If you have just come across my videos looking for some extra help on a German grammar lesson, I do recommend pausing, maybe taking a screenshot or copying down this chart for your own notes so that you have it as you move forward in your German studies. So adjectives without articles, you'll see our masculine, feminine, neuter, plural, our four cases, nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive, as usual. And then a whole lot of different adjective endings going on here. As stated in the overview, for the most part, our adjective endings represent the gender of the noun. So normally, masculine nominative is der, so that der is represented with an ER, alter. Feminine nominative is die, represented by this E added to the adjective, nette. Neuter nominative is normally das, and you'll notice both of the situations where we would have das, it actually is an es representing that neuter ending, neues. And plural, where we have d in the nominative, we get the e added for kleine. So this is a change from our previous lesson on adjectives following der words, where all of our plurals were ens, which is why I told you don't get too comfortable with a rule because it will change in a new situation. Coming down to the accusative row, where we have der changes to den, here we have that en representing our den, alten. D stays D in the accusative, so it's still an E ending, nette. Das stays das in the accusative, represented by the ES, neues. And D stays D in the accusative plural, so it gets that E, kleine. When we learned the dative case and we saw everything change, here we're going to have some changes with our endings. So where we had der changed to dane and then to dame, that dame is represented by an em, altum. Feminine, where we had d, and then in the dative it changed to der, that der is represented with the er, netter. And then where we have das to dame in the dative, with that em here, we have neuem. And then our plural d in the dative changed to dane, and that dane is represented by the en, kleinen. Genitive, things go a little wonky, and honestly, it is hard to even think sometimes of genitive situations, but they can exist and do exist, so these are the endings that you would see. In the masculine and neuter, this is not representative of the definite article we normally have. Normally we go der, den, dame, des, but in this situation, in this context, in this grammar that we find ourselves in, it's an en ending, so alten. Feminine is the same as our dative, just like d changed to der, d changes to der here as well in the genitive, so er. Neuter does the same thing as our masculine and is represented with an en in the genitive. And our plural genitive, d changed to der, and that der is represented by the er. This chart will go a long ways to helping you, and I do recommend copying it down. If you have a copy from me, circling, highlighting so those ends really stand out. So let's look at a couple concrete examples now. So here's an ein paar Beispiele that are very in line with curriculum that we have had up to this point in German class. So the first example of a masculine situation, so a der word, we normally would have der Kaffee. So we might have said der Kaffee schmeckt lecker. The coffee tastes delicious. Instead, we want to say hot coffee, heißer Kaffee schmeckt lecker. So that der is represented by the er, heißer. Maybe we want to change that to a situation where der would have changed to dane. We would have that change from heißer to heißen. Ich trinke heißen Kaffee jeden Morgen. I drink hot coffee every morning. So we have a definite or a direct object here with der changing to dane. So heißer changes to heißen, remembering that those endings are generally representative of our definite articles. Third example of a plural situation, which is again more common. Ich kaufe braune Schuhe. I am buying brown shoes. Sie hat rotes Haar. She has red hair. So das Haar, represented by that es ending, sie hat rotes Haar. She has red hair. And a final example, blaue Augen sind schön. So blue eyes are beautiful. Die Augen, that D becomes the E ending on our blaue Augen sind schön. And that's it for the lesson, guys. This is pretty straightforward, but what you really need to make sure you have in front of you as we start working on some Übungen is this chart. And everything is coming into play here, so you're going to have to be mindful of your cases as well as the gender of the noun. You can do it. glaube an euch. And as usual, if you are uncertain after watching this video, please send me an email and I will try to help as quickly as possible. Tschüss, bis zum nächsten Mal, Allah.